Today I want to talk about something called the Road to Dignity, which is a redo of what used to be called the Millennium Development Goals. The Millennium Development Goals have been in place for about 70 years and were meant to make the world a better place for all countries and all peoples and all races. Those goals were supposed to be completed by 2015, and as there were still a lot of loose ends, the big players in the world decided to recreate these goals into something called the Road to Dignity, and I would like to apply them to the country that I'm currently researching, which is the Marshall Islands. So the way that these goals could be impacted or can have an impact on the Marshall Islands begins with one of the goals called people. One way that this goal can help is the part where it says that it is supposed to ensure healthy lives. What's happening in the Marshall Islands is a lot of people are eating unhealthily because they're coming into contact with foods that they didn't used to have. So they need a lot more food education to make sure that they are eating properly, to decrease the amount of obesity and diabetes that has been a recent concern there. Something else that could help the Marshall Islands a lot is the improvement of the schooling there. There are actually only 2 high schools throughout the entire country, and they're very difficult to get into. So this would be something that could be maximized greatly in the country to ensure that kids are getting the education that they need in order to better their lives and to make a better future for that country. Something else that could be beneficial from this goal is the inclusion of women and children. Something that's happening in the Marshall Islands right now is because they're being exposed to countries from all around the world, they are starting to have the mindset that men should be in charge of the community and the household. So instead of women being cherished and invited to be part of the community, they are being forced to stay in their homes. They are allowed to run for government, but it's very difficult for them to be elected. So this is something that can be improved upon to empower women and make the Marshall Islands a better place for them to live. Something else the next goal that could be implemented in the Marshall Islands is the goal of dignity. This is just ending poverty and fighting inequality there. There's a lot of poverty on some of the islands and a lot of overcrowding. So this goal could be implemented by helping these people get better, find better resources and become employed so that they can be able to end poverty in the places that they live and prevent overcrowding and a lot of the things that come with that, such as diseases, sicknesses that get passed around very easily, and just insufficient water and food supplies, and just really bad living conditions that are happening on some of the poorer islands. So this goal could be very beneficial in that sense. Something else that I thought could be implemented better is the fighting inequality. There are a lot of disabled people in the Marshall Islands and they don't have any rights there. So it would be beneficial for that goal to be in place by creating better laws in the Marshall Islands for those who are disabled to make it easier for them to get jobs. The next goal that I'd like to talk about is prosperity and growing strong, inclusive, transformative economies. This would be improving the Marshall Islands by making more jobs available and making energy and water available to the people. Something that I thought might be very beneficial in the Marshall Islands would be allowing them to have access to things like solar panels, because it's just such a tropical climate that the sun shines a lot. So this would be an easy way for them to get to get better access to electricity and power without it being a huge expense to them. The next goal I'd like to talk about is the planet and protecting the ecosystems for all societies and their children. Something that is a big problem in the Marshall Islands right now is that their islands are actually sinking because of the rising levels of the ocean, and the Marshall Islands are so close to sea level, they're actually sinking. And where there didn't used to be ocean water, there actually is now. So something that needs to be paid attention to is the rising sea levels and find ways to stop it before the Marshall Islands are covered by the ocean. Justice could greatly be improved in the Marshall Islands as well. There's only one prison on the island with 36 spots, and these spots are currently filled. So it becomes difficult to enact justice when there isn't sufficient supplies for this. There aren't any juvenile detention centers for children or women either, so that becomes difficult to enact laws and in the government. Something else that needs to be improved upon is the laws against child abuse and I guess women abuse as well, because these laws, and like rape and like child pornography and different things like that. These laws are not being implemented and enforced very well on the Marshall Islands, making it a difficult place for children and women to live. And then the last one I would like to talk about is creating a partnership. So this is to catalyze global solidarity for sustainable development, and this is just allowing the Marshall Islands to be a part of the world and just doing things as an entire world and doing things together, because no one country can do it all by themselves. This is just a shared vision and making sure that these new goals are hugely a part of everyone's lives. So I hope that these new goals can be very beneficial for the Marshall Islands and for the entire world to make it a better place to live in. And thank you for listening.